Hello, I'm Mike Gordon. Today for Weekend Rental Summer Sega Edition, we are revisiting the original Madden Football released on the Sega Genesis. For those of you who may not remember, I had covered this game previously as part of the 12 Games of Christmas back in 2022, making it my 43rd perfect playthrough. The conditions were simple: win playoff mode, which I achieved back in January 2023. And in spite of all this, there are a few things I would like to show off that I didn't previously, including some of the things I had previously left out due to, timing issues. For starters,
Hut! Hut, hut, hut!
that's right, music! Yeah, I did not show off the game's music the last time I covered this game for perfect playthroughs. And the reason had to do with the Damar Hamlin situation. I basically decided to mute the entire game out of respect for what had just happened. I even delayed the perfect playthrough by a few days just to give it time to settle down. Anyways, the menuing's still pretty crap. All sudden death is whoever scores first wins. And while there is a regular season playoff mode, regular season is just exhibition matches. Now there are 16 teams in total, and it's very difficult to show off all of them. I would just say look it up. Just 16 of the 28 teams available at the time are available for playoff mode, plus a hit 17th game called All-Madden. You can only play this team in regular season, sudden death, not playoff. Probably because it's designed to be an all-star team of sorts, but really it just uses the color scheme of the then Los Angeles Raiders. Full and arm, golden ball. And I never got a chance to read the bulletins for the Raiders. Or will we? Come on, let's go. All-Madden Scouting Report. This is my kind of team. Set the power running game. Then follow deep. Create great man-to-man defensive coverage while brutal pass rush does its job. Linebackers destroy the other guy's running game. Special teams take yardage and score when it counts. My kind of guys. Yeah, and in spite of all this, all you have to do is throw it deep, and the opposing defense will have no idea what to do about that. Because early in the game, the AI will basically hone in on your running game no matter what. So yeah, I'm going to show off the music in the All-Madden team and against my very own Denver Broncos. Well, okay, spoilers, but similar to Joe Montana Football, which we will be covering there is no NFL license in the original Madden Football. Nor was there any license to use any of the player names from the NFL. So really, all you can do is identify the players based on their numbers and what city they play for. So I opened out with a run and immediately lost 3 yards. Because the opposing defense is just trying to clamp down on your running attack. So it's pretty much better start things off by going to the air.
28! 28! 56!
Yeah, there's still some voice clips as well, though not from the man himself.
46! 22! 56!
Kind of sounds like Phil Simms,
57!
who was still playing in the NFL at the time, but I can't tell.
First down!
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. The rate why they completely so really, you can still identify the players by their numbers, and their uniforms still match their team uniforms.
28!
Otherwise, there's no telling who is who.
44!
Well, at least without an instruction manual and some clues
28!
linking the players to who they were at the time of the 90s season. Now, the Raiders were a pretty good team in 1990. They had the league's hardest schedule, yet rode it to a 12-4 record and an AFC title game appearance, though they got completely destroyed by an all-time great team in the Buffalo Bills, who unfortunately could not complete their Super Bowl run.
28, 22,
And the rest is history.
56, 46, 44.
So what I'm doing is just allowing the game clock to tick all the way down in order to burn out as much clock as possible, so I don't keep you guys waiting for too long. So to this end, I'm just waiting patiently. And sometimes I just go over my options on what play I would like to choose. There's no rush outside the 45-second countdown. Nowadays the game clock is 40 seconds, but back then it was 45. And in spite of the fumble, we were able to recover that and punch it into the end zone. A real Andrew Luck type moment. And just like that, we've blown the game wide open. Yes, it is kind of crappy that I'm beating the crap out of my own team, using a hated division rival to do so. But look at it from this way. There's technically no NFL license. So it's not like the Raiders are literally beating the piss out of the Broncos. Even though back then the Broncos were not very good, while the Raiders were really good. Broncos had that Super Bowl losers hangover bad in 1990. And it was leaps and bounds the worst team that John Elway ever fielded. To ever be led by John Elway. I think he was injured for a decent chunk of that season as well. Or at least battling through injuries.
44, 47.
But there was definitely something of a power struggle going on at the time between John Elway and his head coach at the time. I forgot his name. It wasn't Mike Shanahan. Mike Shanahan was essentially exiled to the Raiders, where he would coach for a season or two before getting the axe there. Interesting enough, their head coach at the time, they would beat up their head coach in John Elway's final career game in Super Bowl 33, when his former coach would take up coaching duties for the Atlanta Falcons. So lots of storylines going on, lots of history, and that's the end of the first quarter. Now, apologies, but there could be some moments of some delays here and there. I'm trying my best with these weekend rentals to mitigate these delays so that everything runs as smoothly as possible.
22, 56.
I make no promises that will actually work. So, having said all that, you keep forcing these 3 and outs because, yeah, they literally jacked up the Raiders squad. They are so overpowered that you can't even choose the All-Madden team for playoff mode. They are the honorary 17th team in John Madden Football. Yeah, menuing is still just as terrible as ever, as it seems to register double inputs in the menu whenever you menu things. Explore the main menu, it's just all double inputs. So I'm not really struggling at all. I'm just trying to run out the clock so we could get this game over and done with. Unfortunately, though, Denver makes things way too easy for us to score. You can't really play the long game with the Raiders in this game because they're way too overpowered. They're so overpowered that you're just gonna score at will.
44, 44, 44.
Literally, the only way to pull your punches is to just take sacks. I do occasionally, which is why I occasionally mix in the running game, even though they are currently just locking. The Broncos are currently locked up in stopping the run, and you can still make use of that, but eventually it's gonna break. Eventually, the Denver's defense is gonna break. And it doesn't really matter what kind of play I use. I'm just gonna keep scoring on them. So they're bending here. They gave up 5 yards. And it's the same thing I did with Cyberball yesterday too. Really, the only games where I don't have a problem with the delays or anything are the arcade games. But those come with their own set of issues. I'm writing it down just before the 2-minute warning before I snap the ball. Just so I could burst such time, and I pass it, and I broke a tackle, broke another tackle, and it's nothing but green grass into the end zone. You see what I mean about just how easy it is to score at will against the team? You take it to the air, they have no idea how to stop you. Well, so long as you find your right receivers. Those top windows do give you some clue as to whether or not one of your receivers is open, but there will be some modifications and evolutions to that as the series progresses.
First down.
As far as my favorite football game of all time is concerned, I would probably have to say my number one favorite game on the Sega football game on the Sega Genesis is Tecmo's Super Bowl. I think Tecmo's Super Bowl, no matter what the console is released for, outside of maybe the original PlayStation, it is a masterpiece. It is my all-time favorite NES game, and I would probably make it a top 5 candidate for the Sega Genesis. Lots of stiff competition there near the top, though, and some of it I have yet to play or beat. But, I cover sports games on occasion. Yes, I get it, they're not really ratings draws. Tecmo Super Bowl, by my channel standards, did okay. But that's probably because I was uploading those episodes weekly. Well, a couple times a week, I would say. I think there's a lesson that can be learned from that, and that's probably to spread out my releases a little better instead of releasing daily. So really, I'm just trying to ball up the Denver's offense. Of course, they decided to route the clock some, but not all the way. Alright, about midfield. Actually, just a little past midfield. We're in enemy territory already. Alright. Let's try to get some yardage and bleed out the clock. And he was so wide open he didn't need to break a tackle. That was too good to be true. And by the way, this game controls so much better than Cyberball because most of it is automated. Most of the controls is automated. You can't still manually control your receivers when you're trying to throw to them, but you can still let the controls be, and the receivers will still do a decent enough job trying to catch the ball themselves. but you can still manually control them. That is something that is a little bit better than Tecmo Super Bowl. Tecmo Super Bowl, you have no control over your receivers until they have caught the ball. Until after they have caught the ball. I don't mind. Since I'm just gonna keep scoring at will, I'm just gonna bend. I'm just gonna have my defense bend a little and let the Denver get a few yards. If they can catch the ball. Honestly, I hate dealing with incompletions because it just makes the game longer.
Set. 46. Hut. Hut.
All right. There we go.
First down.
All right. Denver's gonna try to run out the clock, but they're gonna have to hurry it up.
Hut. Hut.
So I'm just gonna stuff them. Boom.
Time.
Absolute domination on all fronts. We're practically 2-1 in terms of time of possession as well. But unfortunately, the Denver gets the ball back to start the second half because we had the ball first to start the first half. Oh well.
First down.
And yeah, why did I choose to beat up on Denver instead of a team that I either am completely apathetic for or a team I hated? Well, the simple reason is menuing sucks. It's all double inputs. I hate menuing in Madden Football.
44.
It was practically a miracle I was able to select the Broncos as my team when doing a perfect playthrough of this game back in December of 2022, which was technically January of 2023, again due to the Damar Hamlin situation. I thought it would have been bad timing to release it then. That first 12 games of Christmas had quite a bit of hectic things going on leading up to this game's release. At least leading up to me uploading this particular game as a perfect playthrough. And the Broncos pulled a similar, oh, I fumbled it, oh, but I'm also going to recover it side of things. Except they didn't turn that into a point. They didn't even convert a first down.
44. Hut. Hut.
And they're trying to run the ball. They can't because I'm blitzing half the time. And I'm not allowing any of Denver's running backs out of my sight. Interestingly enough, at the time, the Broncos were known more for their passing attack and occasionally their defense.
47.
Their running game was pretty much seen as the sore spot of Denver's offense, and one of the reasons they couldn't win the big one. Well, that and the Broncos happened upon some of the greatest teams ever assembled during those mid to late 80s. Like, nobody was beating the Giants, or they put a good effort against the Giants, but nobody was beating the Giants or the Niners in that playoff in the 86 or 89 season. And they probably should have beaten the 87 Redskins, but they just fell apart and never recovered. To be fair, it's not like the Broncos in 87 were a spectacular team
22,
either.
44. 28. 22. 46.
I'm
47.
sour about those 3 Super Bowl
44,
losses? Not
44,
really. I wasn't
46,
born yet when
22.
during 55 to 10 happened.
Hut.
which wasn't even the biggest blowout loss in Broncos history, and we scored another touchdown. Yeah, the Broncos defense has completely snapped like a twig, as even when I'm just running the ball, I'm just scoring at will. And so why not just run the ball on every single play then? Well, here's the thing. At this point, you don't want to become too predictable, because the Madden engine, the AI is at least developed and designed specifically to make adjustments based on your play call. Meaning how you call defense will also lead to them making adjustments on how they operate on offense. How you perform on offense is how they make adjustments on defense. So in the early game, they were basically gun-ho on shutting down the run, but if you open with the pass, they have no idea what to do. They are just wide open all the time, and they don't really have any idea what to do. Heck, even doing man-to-man, you can still technically find receivers that are wide open. And more often than not, they just go zone in that case. Again, a situation where you're very likely to find a receiver that is open.
Set. 46. Hut.
And yet, Denver here seems insistent on continuing with their run. At this point, I should have called a timeout. And the reason why I say that is because, well, they're going to try to run out the clock here because they want to get this game over and done with. And by not calling the timeout here, I'm giving them a chance to convert on 4th down after this. And unfortunately, even though they typically don't start going for on 4th down until the 4th quarter, because I called the timeout here, they've decided we're just going to go for it. Even though it's 4th and 14th, it's deep in our territory, we're down 28 points, we have absolutely no shot at winning this game because we only have 5 minutes of change left to make some noise. Yeah. And it's also going to result in this game becoming much longer as a result. Let's say about 9 minutes longer than it should have been. And that was a turnover on downs. Luckily, we were able to recover the ball at the 20-yard line, but that's about it.
Set. 56. 47.
Alright, just spin. You press spin by pressing, I think it's the B button, but it's been a while. A dives, and I forgot what C does. I think that's a stiff, I think C's the stiff arm. Unless you're the quarterback, dropping back to pass, in which case C opens up the passing windows where you can then choose who to pass it to. So if you sit around and do nothing, the players will try to act entirely on their own without your input. But once you make the inputs and start manually controlling the players, that's it. I wonder how well things could turn out if I played merely like a head coach and not do anything on offense or defense. Make no attempts at manually controlling the players. That's kind of a curiosity, because that rewards you as a head coach more so than as a player.
46, 44, 44,
It would probably be way harder.
28,
Just bring out some time.
44, 44.
Of course, it's another touchdown. I'm not even thrilled anymore. I'm not even that excited. Because it's getting kind of boring at this point.
Set.
So where do I find the sync up moments to try to sync up the audio with the gameplay footage? It has to be at a moment where there's absolutely no movement going on screen. And there's no ticking timer anywhere at all. Because that way it makes it appear seamless. About as seamless as I can make it, because the alternative is to find where the excess frames are being dumped at and trying to cut those out, and that could be insanely difficult to spot because it's the sound to audio delays are really, really subtle. But the good side is that it's really the footage that's it's more so the footage that's lagging behind the audio rather than the audio lagging behind the footage. Actually, no, that is the right one.
44.
The audio is lagging behind the footage, so it's easier to sync up to delete the footage on the still frames than it is to make the proper adjustments with the sound. So in a sense, that is technically a blessing. So I'm just running out the clock. Well, that's kind of easy because Denver's not exactly in hurry-up mode. The game's already over. And of course, they have no choice but to throw it deep, and they can't get done. It's the thing. The alternative to the incomplete passes, which means the game goes on a little longer, is that they get a bunch of big yards, they use a timeout, they burn through their timeouts, and then they score. And then they kick an onside kick, and it's rinse repeat. And despite recovering the fumble and gaining some yards, it's not enough. It's turnover on downs with just over 2 minutes to go. I mean, it's not even 2-minute warning yet. I'm going to try running it. I'm not going to bother with any pass plays, I don't think. And it's 2-minute warning. So it's a free timeout for Denver. And I don't know. I think if you're getting blown out 35-0 and you have a bunch of timeouts left in your back pocket, would you even use them if you were on the losing side? In real life, probably not. You probably just want your day to be over with. The only way to use them is if you want to at least get some points on the board. Anyways,
It's good.
alright. 42-0 with a minute 46 to go. Denver's barely even trying to stop me anymore at this point. It's 10 frames here. I cut out 10 frames of footage here, 20 frames of footage, 10 frames of footage there. Occasionally I will delete 20 frames instead, particularly if we start lagging way behind. But I have to do it at the places where it wouldn't be noticeable, because it's the easiest way to make these cuts when you can't see them. Of course, they're burning through their timeouts because they have to. Well, they don't really have to. They could look at the score and realize, okay, we're just gonna kneel out, take a knee, and just end the game. We've had a bad day. Better luck next time. But no, this is just how the AI works. They see that they're behind, and they need to punch it in just to into the end zone just to have a shot at winning. Either a tie-up or take the lead. It's kind of funny. The AI makes no discernment between being down 3-0 by 3 points, 7 points, 14 points, or 42 points. All they know is that, okay, we're down and we need to start converting fourth downs, and we got burn our timeout, use our timeouts. Like they think they have an honest shot at winning. In real life, I think even if you had all 3 or timeouts remaining at this point, I would probably just throw in the towel, enter victory formation to take the L, and we got the ball back with 52 seconds to go. Honestly, I'm just gonna punch it in anyway, so instead I'm just going to do a couple quarterback sneaks. Instead of throwing the ball or handing it off, I'm just going to run in with the quarterback himself up the middle. And just stop just shy of the end zone. And then I'm going to punch it in one last time on third and inches. Again with the quarterback. So fled left, but doesn't matter. I'm punching it in as time expires.
26, 28, 56,
That's about
22,
it. We've got, after the
28,
score, we've got one more game
56,
left to cover for this week
56,
in rentals.
22.
And I hope you're looking forward to me finally covering Joe Montana Football, the original, which will also double up as Perfect Playthrough number 109. So, leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. I greatly appreciate it. And it doesn't matter how your kicking power. With that out of the way, this is Mike Gordon, sign out.